Hi, I'm John Pullo, Managing Editor at CigarAdvisor.com, and my fan mail question comes from a comment that John Franco left on one of our articles. He asked, what is a priming? When you guys talk about priming tobacco, do you mean harvesting, or does it have something to do with the leaf? Well, John Franco, priming is a word that means a couple of different things. Priming is the most common harvesting technique used on most premium cigar tobaccos. The other way is stalk cutting, which is how those shorter broadleaf plants are harvested. But when the field workers are priming tobacco plants, they go in between the rows of plants and snap off the leaves at a certain level of the plant stalk, working from the bottom up in groups of 3 leaves at a time. So if they're at the third priming, the workers take the third group of 3 leaves off the plant, maybe about 2 feet off the ground or so. Then they move to the next plant, take the same 3 leaves, and on and on. Then that day's harvest of leaves are taken to the curing barn, stitched onto wood lath, and then they're hung to begin air curing for as much as 50 days, often more. Priming an entire plant can take a couple of weeks to 2 months. So while priming is the name of the process, the priming is also the name for the position on the plant, as in how high up the stalk the group of 3 leaves were picked from. A tobacco plant can grow upwards of 9 feet and produce anywhere between 20 and 30 leaves, but not all of them are usable, so the grower ends up with maybe a dozen leaves from the plant, or as many as 16 if it's a really good crop. Here's the thing about primings. The higher you go on the plant, the leaf color goes from lighter to darker. The flavor and strength go from mellow to full, and from more combustible to less combustible. The bigger leaves are in the middle, and they can get huge. Some grow to be almost 2 feet long, and the higher up on the plant you go, the longer it takes for those leaves to cure. Each priming falls into a group that's used for different purposes. From the base of the plant, it starts with the sand leaves, which are just a few inches off the ground, but they're usually tossed. Then come the volado primings, very thin, very little flavor. Secco primings come next, mellow, but a little more aromatic. Then the viso primings, where we're past the middle 50% of the stalk and we start seeing some strength. Higher up is ligero, which I'm sure you've heard of. More flavor, more strength. Then there are the small but really strong leaves at the tippy top called corona leaves, which are also rarely used. Most binder tobacco comes from the volado and secco primings. Secco and viso are where the wrappers often come from, and filler leaves can come from pretty much anywhere on the plant. Just depends on what kind of cigar the blender's trying to make. There are always going to be exceptions, of course. So next time you hear someone describe a cigar made with high priming Nicaraguan Habano, we're talking about the thicker, more potent, high-position Ligero leaves from a Cuban seed tobacco plant grown in Nicaragua. And it's probably going to be a little bit more intense. Probably, I say, because just knowing what country the tobacco comes from isn't enough to judge for sure how a cigar will taste. What determines a tobacco's taste is how high is the priming. Hope this helps.